Welcome back to the Inner Sanctum, Salon Rising, the podcast mini moments brought to you by Timely. Hello, Sherri.
Hello. I'm so happy to be back.
I'm so excited to have you back on a mini moment. So, guys, mini moments are going to be just our snippet pods, so not really long format, and we're just going to touch on things. So, our first guest today is the wonderful Sherri. You know her, you love her. We've seen her, and we just love having her on. So, Sherri from Timely, thanks so much for coming back on, babe.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited for our little mini moments.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be great. So, when we headed into this first round of mini moments, I think the topic we were really wanting to touch on this time was that soul trader journey. You know, I know when we caught up on the main pod, was that last year?
Yeah.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah.
When we caught up last year, we started talking into some of those stats of people on their solo journey. And I was honestly shocked when you told me how many sole trader businesses close after 18 months of trading. And it's really started that conversation about, well, why do we think that is? And what are the things that we can do to support these people so that everyone's continuing to thrive, be it on their own or with a team or however they want to do it? I guess my initial thoughts are, what do you think are the contributing factors in why that's sort of dipping out at 18 months?
Yeah. I feel like it's dipping out at that 18 kind of month mark is everything sets in and that reality sets in. You're in your role of your business. You've felt like you may have got traction. The bills are coming in and all of those things start to happen, right? And if you don't have a good team around you, or if you don't have support or anything like that, then you're going to feel like you are a solo.
Yeah.
I almost feel like, in a really interesting way, I wish we could maybe change the word solo.
Yes.
Because it does kind of have this loneliness about it. Like,
yes,
you say, oh, I'm a solo hairdresser, I'm a solo business owner. Like, that's what you are. But I wonder if there's like some other words that we could maybe think of that change the narrative and maybe help you show up differently if you named it as just, I'm a business owner.
Yeah. It's actually funny you say that, because I saw something that, you know, Sheridan Rochelle, like Mama West, Sheridan, had said about working for yourself, not by yourself. And it's like, that is so true. You can work for yourself. You can work on your own for yourself, but it doesn't have to be by yourself. You still need a team.
Absolutely.
That team might look different. You know, that team might be your accountant and your software provider. It's who's the team that's got your back. You don't have to be alone.
No, and something that I actually do often is I write who my cheer squads are.
That's so good.
I think, like, personally, I've probably been going through my own little journeys, and I got asked to write a list of who's in my team and what does my cheer squad look like, so that whenever I'm in doubt, I can go back to that. And the actual exercise of writing down who was in my team and who I could rely on for advice made me feel so secure within any of the decisions that I want to make in business. And you start to realize that you aren't alone and your team are there to cheer you on. And whether or not that is your software, maybe it's your gym crew in the morning that are there to like comment on your posts or like all your posts or share your posts. Like, there's so many people out there that are cheering for your success. You just really have to identify those things. And I think once you've identified who your cheer squad are, you can then definitely like think of the wider picture. But it's so important to keep those little nuggets of notes. And I actually think I might have brought this up on our podcast that we did at the start of the year about some little tips that you could do on your notes. But you can write those things down and start to think about who is in your cheer squad team. So if you do feel less alone in things.
I'm literally just sitting here thinking of all the people that I want to message after this and be like, thank you for being in my cheer squad. Like,
yes. And
you know,
that's actually a really beautiful exercise to do. We should take those moments sometimes to think of people that are in our cheer squad and thank them. It's a beautiful little gratitude exercise to reach out and say
100%. Because like even just talking about that and like bing, 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 I need to message this person and this person. Yeah, I love that. That is so valuable.
Today is your day to message all the people that you are grateful for on your business journey.
Absolutely. That's so good. Okay, so we've got that loneliness. Right. Now, I know this wasn't one that you or I have struggled with actually, because we had quite good financial setups when we went into operating like businesses for ourselves. But I know that one thing we have noticed with sole traders that come and try and work with Salon Rising is there's sometimes a shock factor in bills going, you know, like we talked about the outgoings and like, oh, now I have to pay that. Or sometimes it's that they've done so well on those formative stages and then all of a sudden you've hit like qualifying to pay GST and stuff, which sometimes I feel like there's a negativity around it, but it's like, no, that means you're doing great. Like, look at you go. You've gone to that next level. Like, this is awesome.
That's so true. You've hit that next level of growth in your business.
Yeah.
And GST, I mean, I think a good practice of put the GST aside anyway whilst you're under that threshold and use that towards the growth of the business or some marketing or paid ads or something like that. But as long as you're probably looking at it from just putting that little bit away, it does have like a less of a shock factor. And there's easy ways to do that too. Like if you have your GST turned on in your booking software, you can see it. So you can run a report at the end of the month and see exactly what that GST is and put that aside. And it is hard, I think, too, because we all have been there, and I will firsthand put my hand up and say, we've all been in the salon and seen what we turn over, and we're looking at this big number. It's like, oh my God, I've turned over X amount, and yeah, I could have a killing business outside of this. But, you know,
turnover and profit are two very different things.
Imagine if it was just profit all alone. I mean,
it would be so good.
It's kind of like when you pay your mortgage and you see what you paid in interest.
I know. I've actually just fallen down a rabbit hole with that as well. I'm like, oh, how do I stop that? I'm following all the people that tell you how to do it differently to try and pay it faster. That is my little hyper focus that I've got at the moment.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's also, I think, something that no one teaches you. There's two things I think in our life. You want to open a business, there's probably like a high chance that no one's told you how to open a business or run a business. And so you are naive and you just jump into it and you find your way as you go along. And it's the same with buying a house. You didn't grow up with parents that taught you how to do things or even save your money or anything like that. Then you end up having to find out these ways. Yeah. And there are so many clever ways to do things with your bank accounts.
And I think that's the same with your business, right? Like it's just looking and seeking and asking the questions and not being scared to be like, I wonder if there's a different way to do this.
And I also see there are so many incredible coaches in many different fields. So if you want to learn something, there are so many free webinars that people put on.
Never has there been a time in history where the ability to learn something is so accessible to everybody. Like the information is everywhere. You've just got to look for it. Sometimes it's not good information though.
Yeah. And do you think that we have a bit of a learning, like I feel like I've got a little bit of learning fatigue?
I think I could do with a dose of learning fatigue because it might stop me from trying to do everything.
I'm definitely not learning fatigue at the moment.
Yeah.
And
as in life lessons, as in I don't want to learn anymore. Just across the board. No more.
There is so much information and I love learning. So I will take everything. And then all of a sudden you get this overwhelm where you've taken on so much information that you don't even know what the right decision is.
I like that, Sherri.
And then I learned best is I'm figuring out right now is I'll grab all this information and then I'll just talk to people.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, what are your thoughts on this? Have you done this before? And then that starts to like feel a little bit better. But if you're in this little learning bubble and you're taking in all this information, then you're like, I don't even know what to do with all of this. It is quite overwhelming. And I think because we have so much at our fingertips to learn.
Yeah.
And where we're learning and who we're learning from, like it can really feel quite overwhelming. And I have felt that too when I had my business. It was like, cool, I need to learn how to do this. But it's like, do I really want to learn how to do this? But you do need to, because if something goes wrong, especially when it comes to your books or your accounting or your numbers, you have to be across that, because there's way too many horror stories that happen where you're relying solely on your bookkeeper or your accountant.
And yeah, I coined that weaponized incompetence, and that weapon's going to get turned on you. You know, like it's okay to have that support and have someone else doing it, but you need to have at least the fundamental understanding of what is happening, you know? Yeah, that's so true. And I feel like that's where your cheer squad can come into it as well, because sometimes you need your cheer squad as a handbrake.
Absolutely. It's kind of like all those Facebook groups that happen, you know, there's a few that are floating around at the moment. And every day there's women in business posting in there, sharing their struggles. And you see like 50, 60 comments on there and everyone is going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, it just takes one person to ask the question or reach out to someone and you will find someone that's really relating to it.
Collective learning.
Yes, collective learning. I love that.
So I think, and I'm sure you would agree, that sometimes one of the other things that contribute to this fatigue around that 18-month business mark is not having systems in place. I actually remember us having this conversation really early on when I jumped on board with Timely, and you were just like, I know that it seems like a lot, but you have to just sit down, because those couple of hours that you set yourself up for will save you so many hours in the future. I think I would say that's one of the most valuable things I learned this year. It's made such a difference.
And it's so true. I always have that same quote, start how you mean to go on. So whatever your future plans of your business are, you implement them now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the foundational stuff. So the boring stuff, the emailing and the automations and the things like that. And then that also falls into, I guess, if you're building a business, it's this like brand voice that you kind of have to think about.
Yeah.
And so like when you start putting those systems in place, you start to think about what your brand voice is too. So as you're doing all of those steps and those systems, you're thinking about that. It's like we were having that conversation about like your client journey and how was that looking and what do those automations look like? And then you start thinking about the conversations that you had behind the chair and what makes your salon really different and special and beautiful and why your clients come back.
And it's really interesting because I was literally having a conversation with a solo stylist on Monday about this, and she's not using any automation systems and just finding it hard. But that perception that you'll lose that personal touch, which I actually think it's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Because I feel like having your hands off those little things, they're still personal touch points because you design them yourself, right? But it just means that it's allowing you more time to be personal in the chair.
Correct. And it's going back to some of the basic things. It could be client testimonials.
Yeah.
I always think about the thought process that we have when we're building our social media and what we want to add in our content can also be part of what you're doing in your email automations.
Yeah.
Because not everyone's looking at your social media all the time. It's so hard. We're in a overly saturated, flooded Instagram market. So email, when we really peel everything back, your email list is such a valuable part to your business. So think about whatever you're planning for your socials is going to be the same thing that you're also going to pour into that. that email client journey, client testimonials or product of the week or product of the month, maybe. It doesn't have to be a huge thing.
I like it. I need to get more emails.
I could see your brain ticking. Can I also say that's why it's really good when clients book online, because you actually capture all of their details.
Yes.
You get their, email, you get their phone number. There's no like user error typing everything in necessarily. Like I remember working in a salon and we decided to get everyone's email addresses, and it was such a big exercise. You have this like piece of paper at the front. And
then
like,
you can't read people's handwriting. And then it's like, oh, I put it in wrong. So yeah, no, that's so true.
Correct. But I think we do need to have some more conversations around that importance of how important your client data is to you and how valuable that is. Your Instagram might get deleted tomorrow. You don't know, which has happened. There's been quite some huge influential people out there that have lost their Instagram, and that is so scary for so many of us. But that means that your website's going to be good and your email, you're going to have all your contacts in there. So email and phone number will never, ever, ever die.
It's true. It really is true. Okay. I feel like we've covered some good groundwork in this. Yes.
Yes.
I think we've talked about the whys we think things are happening. So perhaps because we're going to do another couple of these little mini ones, guys, so that we can cover a bit more stuff. But I think the lesson we're going to take away from this little mini moment is that you need to figure out who your cheer squad is. Yeah. And just a little gratitude practice. So send your cheer squad a message and say, thanks so much for being my cheer squad. And really think about those touch points in your business that perhaps it's time that you can take your hands off them if you lay the right groundwork.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Correct.
Do you think?
I also think, and I do want to say this, you're not going to have everything in place at the start.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So don't get too much anxiety. There'll be this, oh my God, I've got to have everything done. Just think of the key things that are going to help you get going, and then make sure that you prioritize time. Once your business is, say, up and running in a month, go back to those basics of okay, what's next? And I think you did this really well, Jen. You kind of got quite a bit going.
Yeah.
And then it was I've got to get my doors open and I've got to get things moving. And then you went back and thought, okay, that's this next stage. So there's almost 3 or 4 stages of putting everything together. So it's get everything going, all your automations, text messages, your business details, all of those things. And then it's okay, so what's that next stage? What do I need to do to keep my clients engaged? Okay, so this might be these aftercare emails or these little, pop-in messages or what that might look like. And then that next stage is oh, what's missing from that?
Yeah, and just focusing on that one thing, clean it up, set it up, and then go okay, that's click play, and that's going. And
Correct.
Then you can look at that next little thing. But I think that's another really important thing to say as well, is that just keep making those little movements forward. Don't feel overwhelmed, just those little steps.
And when you're in doubt, remember why.
Yeah.
Remember why you're doing what you're doing and why you love it. And I think that's a really important part to why we also forget why that stage of that 18 months happens, is because you were tired and you've actually forgotten the why.
Yeah.
Of why you're showing up every day and nurturing these clients. So have that written somewhere really big and large so that can remind you every day.
Maybe a neon sign.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, guys. So thank you so much for joining us on this little mini moment pod. Sherri and I will be chatting about just a few other things over the next couple of months. So yeah, listen out, and I hope you enjoy these mini moments. Thanks so much, Sherri.
Thank you.